I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk, and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and it looks like Playmates has cornered the market on Godzilla figures in the West. For now at least. So let's see what the future looks like with the 2 latest figures I just happened to find last time I was out. City Destruction Godzilla and Ferocious Kong. Let's start with the packaging. I haven't bothered talking about that in a while, but it's worth noting that the line is no longer exclusive to Godzilla vs. Kong. Now it's the MonsterVerse toy line, allowing them to make figures from other movies in the series. Given that the front shows images of the Warbat and Mechagodzilla, I'm hoping that means re-releases of those 2 are on the way. On the back we see text that goes all in on the world building. Here's how they describe the series itself. The monsters of myth and legend are real and battle for dominance across the world. Humanity's efforts to coexist with these titanic forces of nature is led by Monarch, a highly equipped organization of the bravest scientists, adventurers, and military specialists in the world. Now humanity enters a brave new era of discovery filled with unknown dangers. There are a few grammatical issues in there, but whatever, it still provides a fun description for the series. Then we get some short bios of the monsters, and that's about all there is to say. But you're not here for the packaging. You want to know if the figures are worth it. So, let's get to the main event. We'll start with Godzilla. When the initial photos first leaked, people wondered if this was meant to be Burning Godzilla, but a closer look at the spines and feet revealed that this was the 2014 design, which hasn't had a figure since, well, 2014 when Jakks Pacific had the license. Now I could compare this to the NECA figure, but that would be unfair since NECA has a different budget with a different target audience. Of course the Playmates figure isn't going to have the same level of detail or articulation, so we'll just move past that. Like other Gojis in the line, this Godzilla ships with its tail detached, and it needs to be fit over a ball joint. Once fully assembled, we can see that this is an entirely new sculpt. They didn't just take the GVK mold and switch out the feet and spines. No, this Godzilla is entirely new and distinct. The pose, which I'll espouse on later, is reminiscent of the supercharged Godzilla figure, but it's not a total rehash. This is a completely new figure as opposed to a variant, and I can definitely give Playmates props for that. Now the question is whether or not this new sculpt is as good as what came before. Overall, the figure is not taller than previous Godzillas, but the proportions are overall bigger, and that is definitely an improvement. While I don't hate the GVK variants, they tended to have odd proportions, especially when put alongside other figures in the line. Like the head, for instance. The heads were always oddly small. Even taking into account how the MonsterVerse Godzilla has a small head to begin with, these figures went overboard and made him look practically microcephalic. For the new figure though, the head feels properly proportioned to the rest of him. The elephant feet also look good, though they lack details on the soles. Not that anyone will ever see those parts. As for the spines, they're not exactly film accurate. It looks like extra points were added to make them resemble the 2019 spines a bit more, and they tend to blend together rather than have separation. Also, he has a few more spines flanking the central row than he does in the movie. Still, for what they are, they look good. Who knows? Maybe this is how he'll look in the new series. Like other figures in the line, this Godzilla has battle damage, this time on the side rather than the front, possibly in reference to a wound he receives from the male Muto in the movie. The inside is solid red and doesn't have much detail, as is standard. The patch which covers it has slightly more texture than the rest of the body, but it blends in well enough once it's in place. The eyes are also even, so he doesn't look wall-eyed or derped like other figures have. Another bonus. Of course, this Godzilla does have some flaws. Let's start with the mouth. Like previous figures, the jaw can open and close. Unlike previous figures, it only looks good when it's open. Once you close it, this happens. I don't know if it's the angle of the head or how the jaw fits on the hinge or what, but it winds up falling way short of the upper jaw, which is not how his design is supposed to look. I recommend keeping the mouth open, he looks better that way. Then there's the fact that he's molded in a pose. He can still move, but this image here is the most neutral you can get him to look. The previous GVK figures had him in a walking pose as well, but the legs were close enough that it wasn't jarring. Here, moving Godzilla's legs to any other position will just look weird. His head is also permanently angled to the right, and his tail will always curve at an extreme angle. Again, I know this isn't a NECA or Monster Arts figure, but people who prefer posable figures might find this annoying. That said, if you just want to display him, the built-in pose isn't that big of an issue unless you just don't like it. But what about those red highlights? Are they necessary? Well, kind of yes and kind of no. On the one hand, the figure would just be solid charcoal gray without them, so a little color is appreciated. On the other hand, if you're a collector who wants just the right lighting for display or photography, this limits your options to only warm colors. With the right setup, this could look cool, but otherwise it does look a little odd. He looks better than the Hong Kong Battle Kong at any rate. I should probably also mention the tank, which is the only accessory this Godzilla comes with. The tank is tiny and sand-colored, perfect for desert camouflage, but not so much for urban combat. The color doesn't really match with Godzilla, but it doesn't clash either. It has just enough detail to make it look good, but doesn't have too much because, let's be honest, it's not the primary focus. The turret can rotate a full 360 degrees, which ironically makes it more posable than Godzilla. I'm not sure if it's properly to scale with the G-Man, but when put alongside him, it looks alright. I'm fine with its addition. Let's go to Kong next. This is the 2017 Skull Island design, and like Godzilla, it's a totally new sculpt. When placed next to the GVK Kong, we can see the differences. Straighter posture, new head, different proportions on all four limbs, slimmer torso, and both the grasping hand and battle damage are on the left arm as opposed to the right arm. As always seems to be the case in this line, Kong is way more articulated than Godzilla, with a whopping 13 joints as opposed to 9, so posing options are nigh unlimited. His expression is frozen in place, and it justifies the name on the package. This is a Ferocious Kong if ever I saw one. Part of me wonders if his canines are a bit too long, but they still contribute nicely to the look. Colors are a pretty close match to the Giant Kong released alongside the movie, until we get to the feet. Oddly, the feet are a very pale color somewhere between blue, gray, and beige, which they are not in the movie. If I had to guess, maybe this is meant to simulate his feet being underwater, since the finale of Kong Skull Island has him standing almost knee-deep in a marsh, but the odd color is only on the front of the feet and doesn't extend very high. Honestly, I'm not completely sure what the logic was here, if there was any. Kong comes with two accessories, the first of which is the propeller and chain he uses in the film like a flying guillotine. Paint is good on this, with a nice dull silver for the chain and dirty bronze for the blades. It looks like a proper device as opposed to an afterthought. The chain is permanently sculpted instead of being loose, but unlike the permanent sculpt of Godzilla, this opens up possibilities. Kong can be posed in various ways to look like he's hurling it through the air, and like he's just embedded it in the Skullcrawler's back, or like he's doing the easiest yo-yo trick in the world. Keep practicing, Kong, you'll figure the fancy ones out someday. But then we get to the helicopter, and I can already picture my father the aviation specialist shaking his head in disgust. The finer details of the body are okay, I guess, but look at those rotors. They're so droopy it makes the helicopter look sad. Maybe this can look okay if Kong is standing on it, if you can get him to balance, but otherwise the chopper doesn't look good at all. And no, the rotors don't spin, and it's definitely not to scale with Kong. I suppose the sagging blades could just be an issue with the figure I got, but I don't know and I see no point in buying another one just to find out. Maybe someone in the comments can say if it's a common issue or not. I should also note that this Kong does have a tendency to fall if his feet aren't positioned just right, which is not an issue I ever had with the previous figures in this scale. The big Kong, yes, but not the small ones. It's something to be mindful of when setting him up, because if he's not positioned just right, he will probably pitch forward. So are these figures worth it? Well, if you're a parent getting them for your kids, they're not likely to care too much about posing and paint oddness as long as they can have fun with them. But what about for the adult collector? Well, they both make for interesting display pieces, but Godzilla needs the proper lighting, and Kong needs stability. I would say they're not the best figures Playmates has to offer, but they're not the worst either. Their virtues and flaws balance out to make both of them average. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. You know, when it's detached, Godzilla's tail kinda looks like Sherlock Holmes's pipe. But remember kids, smoking kaiju is bad for your health. Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.